Okay, so we're going to go on to page 109. That's page 109. Let's start with number 6. It looks like this: 868 divided by 4. So our first question is, how many times does 4 go into 8, which is 2? But this isn't really an 8, it's really 200. So 4 goes into 800 200 times. 4 times 200 is 800. Okay, go ahead and subtract. Now we only have 68 left to split up. We've already made 200 groups of 4. So we say, how many 4s are there in 68? And I think there are at least 10, so I'm going to go ahead and go with 10. 4 times 10 is 40. Subtract, and we get 28. How many 4s are in 28? 7 times 4 is 28. So 4 times 7 is 28. Subtract it, and there's nothing left over. Our last step is just to add up our partial quotients, so we get 217. Next we'll go on to number 7. So it's 5,142 divided by 6. First question is, how many times does 6 go into 5? 6 does not go into 5 because you can't make a group of 6 out of 5. So you need to look at 51 instead and say, how many times does 6 go into 51? You could also think of it as how many 6s are in 5,000. So 10 times 6 is 60, or 1,000 times 6 would be 6,000. That's not going to work here. 9 times 6 is 54, which is a little bit too big. So we'll go to 8 times 6. Put an 8 right here. And really that's 800, right? Because we're looking at 5,142. So we say 6 times 800 is 48 with 2 eggy zeros, 4,800. We'll subtract it. And we get 342. So now we just have 342 left to split up into groups of 6. We're saying, how many 6s are there in 342? I know that 6 times 5 is 30, so 6 times 50 would be 300. So I'm going to go with 50 6s, which is 300. Subtract, and we have 42. We say, how many 6s are in 42? And that's exactly 7 if you know your 6s. 6 times 7 is 42. Subtract. Nothing left. Add up your partial quotients, and you get 857. Beautiful. Alright, number 8 says 4,395 divided by 3. So our first question is, how many 3's do we think there are in 4,000 something? I know that 3 times 10 is 30, and I know that 3 times 1,000 is 3,000. So I'm going to start with 1,000 up here, and 1,000 times 3 is 3,000. Go ahead and subtract it. Yeah, 1,395. So our new question is, how many 3's are in 1,300? Definitely more than 100. 100 3's would be 300, but there are not 1,000 3's, which is 3,000. So what I do is I look at the first 2 digits and say, how many 3's are there in 13? 3 times 4 is 12, so 3 times 400 would be 1,200. We can subtract, and we get 195. Now we're asking, how many 3's are there in 195? If you use the same strategy that I just did on the last one, you're thinking, okay, there are not 100 3's, because that would be 300. Let's look at the first 2 digits. How many 3's are there in 19? 3 times 6 is 18, so 3 times 60 would be 180. So you see why we need 60. We need that extra 0 here so that we're actually asking about 195 instead of just 19. Okay, so then we subtract. get 15. How many 3s are there in 15? That's exactly 5. 5 times 3 is 15. We subtract, get to 0. We add up our partial quotients, and we get 1,465. And now we'll go on to number 9, 10, and 11. Let's look at number 9. 332 divided by 4. So think about what would your first step be. You should say how many 4s go into 3, and the answer is none. So ask how many 4s go into 33. Now, if you think about your 4s, 4 times 5 is 20, 4 times 6 is 24, 4 times 7 is 28, we're getting close. 4 times 8 is 32. So it's going to be 8, but really that's 80 4s because we need it to be 320, not 32. 9 didn't work because 94s would be 360, and we don't have 360 to split up. We only have 332. Now subtract and you get 12. How many 4s are in 12? That's 3. 4 times 3 is 12, and you subtract again, and it's 0. So your answer, your quotient should be 83 with no remainder. Make sure you showed all of your work just like this. And let's go on to number 10. 1,617 divided by 7. Ask yourself, what is the first step here? You should have said how many 7s go into 1, and the answer is none. So how many 7s go into 16? 7 times 2 is 14, so that's going to be 2, and then you add your 2 zeros, because 7 times 200 is 1,400. Next, you're going to subtract. Your new question is how many 7s are in 217. So you can start with how many 7s in 2, there's none. How many 7s in 21? That's 3. So 30 7s would be 210. Subtract. You only have 7 left. How many 7s are in 7? That's 1, exactly. Add them up, your partial quotients, and you should have a complete quotient of 231. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, it's 939 divided by 7. Go ahead, try this one on your own. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to solve it silently. And then check your screen after you've solved it and see if you got it. Okay. So check the screen, see if you got that one. If you got it and you feel like you're getting the hang of this, you can go ahead and do the rest of them on your own. I'm going to lead you through the next ones if you still feel like you need some help.
Hi, Daddy's class.
That's my daughter, Cameron. Bye, Cameron. Okay, we're going to do the next one, which is 4,276 divided by 2. Like I said, if you are feeling like you can do these on your own, you could go ahead of me, and that's fine.
Really?
This one's 4,276 divided by 2.
Daddy?
Start with how many 2's are in 4? And that is exactly 2. Alright, but this isn't going to be 2, it's 2,000.
Daddy?
And 2 times 2,000 is?
4,000.
Now we subtract. And we only have 276 left to split up. We're saying how many 2's are in 276? I would start with 100 2's. 100 2's is?
200.
So then we subtract. That leaves us with 76 left to split up into groups of 2. So how many 2's in 76? I know that 2 times 30 is 60. So I'll use that. I'll subtract. And I'm left with 16. So how many 2's in 16? 2 times 8 is 16. Subtract again, and you have nothing left to split up. So you're going to add your partial quotients. And the quotient is 2,138. So there are 2,138 2's in 4,276. So let's go on to the next one. And it is 2,576 divided by 6. First task, how many 6's are there in 2? And there are none. So how many are there in 25? 6 times 4 is 25. So 6 times 400 is 2,400. Subtract. You have 176. 6 times 30 is 180, but that's not going to work since we only have 176. So I'll use 6 times 20, which is 120. Subtract again. And you have 56. How many 6's in 56? Well, 6 times 10 is 60. That's not going to work, so we'll do 6 times 9, which is 54. 2 left over. How many 6's in 2? There are no 6's in 2. We can't split 2 into a group of 6, so that's our remainder. So we're going to add up our partial quotients. We got 429, remainder 2. Remember, if I am going too fast for you, you can just pause it or rewind to see what I did again. Let's go to the next one. Alright, we have 441 divided by 7. By now you should be getting the steps down, so it's how many 7's are in 4? None. How many 7's are there in 44? I know 7 times 6 is 42. So we're going to do 7 times 60 is 420. And subtract. You have 21. How many 7's in 21? Well, that's exactly 3. Add your partial quotients. Nothing left over. So we have 63. That was a quick one. Okay, for these last ones, number 15, 16, and 17, I want you to try them on your own. I'm going to put up the answers here, but remember, you have to show your work. So if you need help, you could turn to your math partner right next to you and say, hey dear, I need some help. Or you can raise your hand and get some help from the substitute, and hopefully they can help you. So here are your answers. Make sure that you have shown your work. So your page shouldn't look like this when you turn it into the substitute. You should have all of your subtraction here, and you should have your partial quotients above the line before your final quotient. Alright, so you're going to turn to the back of this page, which is page 110, and you're going to do these division word problems. So every one of these is division. You just have to show your work, and I want you to use partial quotients, which is what we used on the other ones, or you could use place value sections. And I know some of you guys are thinking, but Mr. Klein, last year in my 3rd grade class, we did traditional method. Can we do that now? And the answer is no. I want you to practice using partial quotients and place value sections method so that you'll know how to do 3 ways to do division. You'll have a better understanding of division than if you just knew the steps to traditional method and nothing else. So today you're going to do these methods, and then later on you'll be able to do more traditional method practice. So you are going to tear out page 109, 110 when you're done. Make sure you showed all your work. Hand them to the substitute. They will check it. And then you have a choice between Rocket Math, 10 marks, Dreambox, or you can start your homework. Those are the only choices today, no math games. So pick one of those when you're done, and I will see you guys tomorrow.